Humanitarian aid enters the Syrian city of Homs after government forces push the armed fighters from their stronghold. But locals report that rebels are still in the area and are still killing. Syrian government forces have allowed an aid convoy to enter the city of Homs after capturing the rebel stronghold of Baba Amr. This follows a call from the UN Security Council to allow immediate humanitarian access to the worst affected areas, a motion supported by Russia and China. RT's Maria Finoshina spoke to a resident of the besieged city who gave an eyewitness account of what she described as atrocities committed by the rebels when they were in control.
International Red Cross and Syrian Red Crescent has reached Homs. It's brought food, water and medical supplies to the city that suffered from an almost month-long siege. Humanitarian agents are also expected to evacuate injured from the area. Many people have been killed in Homs as well, and their bodies have never been taken away, and that will be another part of their mission. What used to be one of the opposition's main strongholds here in Syria is now under the government control. Local media reports that in the tunnels underneath Homs, the army has discovered the fighters' base, kind of command and control center packed with electronics, weapons and explosives. The reports also say that they've found 100 of bodies with multiple injuries and torture marks. The situation on the ground still remains dramatic and chaotic. Infrastructure has been badly damaged in Homs. There is no water, no electricity and no food. No mobile coverage, and landline has also been badly damaged. After many attempts, we finally managed to speak by phone with Homs residents. The woman has called herself Galina without giving us her last name. She has said that local residents are afraid to leave their houses.
The self-proclaimed revolutionaries are real bandits. They can shoot in the back. They kill people, rob houses. One can be shot dead for no reason. We're afraid to go to the country, as our car can be stopped and we can be shot. They kill both young and old. They take people from their homes and chop them into pieces, put them in plastic bags and then throw them out.
She has also said that while retreating from Baba Amr area, the rebels have moved to another neighborhood in Homs known as Hamidiyah, and they've killed many people there, and most of them are Christian families.
Civilians are tired of slaughter. Syrians want peace and they love Bashar al-Assad. But the Syrian soldiers who protect us are being killed every day. We've heard that mercenaries from France, Tunisia, Lebanon are involved. We don't go anywhere and just sit at home, as we're afraid of snipers. People are tired.
Shortly after the rebels' withdrawal, one of the Syrian main opposition groups formed a military council to organize an armed resistance and provide the rebels with more weapons. The fact that just shows and proves how deeply militarized the conflict here in Syria has become recently, as the country is veering close to a civil war.
RT's Maria Finoshina there reporting. Well, meantime, Aisling Byrne, the project coordinator for the Beirut-based Conflicts Forum, she says that the mainstream media is still failing to balance their reports of atrocities being committed inside Syria.
I think there's growing recognition that some of the Takfiri, the fundamentalist Islamist groups, who probably make up about 30% of the armed insurgents, that they're guilty of as much sort of brutality and terrible actions as some of the accusations against the Syrian army. These have been documented in various reports. We need to be careful of some of the mainstream media coverage. In fact, the ICRC and its local, the Syrian Red Crescent, have been distributing humanitarian aid, medical supplies, water for some days in Hama and Homs. And, for example, they did get ambulances through to take the injured journalists out of Homs. There are lots of on-the-ground reports, including from Al Jazeera, who've confirmed that it was actually the Free Syria Army who've stopped ambulances going in to evacuate both injured Syrians, civilians and insurgents, but also the foreign journalists who were there.
And Yekaterina Kretova, who has just come back from Homs, says that she witnessed a scene of chaos and carnage in the war-torn city.
I spent 9 days in Homs with the Syrian Red Crescent and saw with my own eyes the killing, the bloodshed and the bodies on the streets. Many of the people in Homs have not sided with the government or rebels. They just want to be left alone and survive. But the humanitarian situation is dire, with no water, no power and little food. The conflict in Homs itself is divided in two, with regime supporters on one side and the Islamist opposition on the other. I saw many Lebanese mercenaries. I spoke with members of the Syrian army who told me about tunnels that had been dug between Homs and Lebanon, which are used by mercenaries who are paid a lot of money to fight the army. But from what I saw, the blame for the violence lies equally with the government and opposition rebels, who also fire missiles indiscriminately at government forces.
And now the European Union has recognised the Syrian National Council as a legitimate representative of the people. And with foreign powers taking sides, the future of Syria will depend on international politics and not interior developments. Well, that's the view of James Corbett, the editor of the Japan-based independent news website, The Corbett Report.
As we see, there's still a lot of wrangling going on at the international level in the UN Security Council and other United Nations organizations and the Friends of Syria and all of these other international organizations that are putting various types of pressure on the Syrian government and or the Syrian opposition groups. So it's absolutely up in the air at this point, and it really depends on the extent to which the international community really wants to continue pressing ahead with the ongoing and admitted support for these supposed opposition rebels that have supposedly spontaneously arisen in Syria, but as we now know have been being funded and armed and trained and equipped by the international community for some time now. Certainly last month there were a number of multiply confirmed reports from various different news agencies confirming that Iraqi officials were admitting that certain long-established smuggling routes were being used through Iraq to funnel arms, money, and even jihadis to Syria to take part in this uprising. So once again, whether or not the opposition is able to regroup and to once again take Homs or some other city, I think is really dependent on the extent of the aid that they're going to receive. If the international community loses stomach for attempting to institute regime change in Syria, I think we'll see the end of the opposition.
And you can find much more of the ground footage from Syria just on our website, rt.com, as well as some rather disturbing pictures from another conflict-scarred country. This video here leaked from post-Gaddafi Libya. It appears to show a group of Africans locked in a zoo and being forced to eat old flags.